So we've created an editor role, but one key piece of functionality is missing, and that's the ability to publish and unpublish any content. Because if I edit one of these articles, you will see that I cannot unpublish it. Normally there's a checkbox there. So if I go to the content page in this browser and edit one of these articles, I get a checkbox, which is published. But here, we can't see this published checkbox. Now, if we jump to the permissions page, so let's go back to people, permissions, and then scroll all the way down to the node section. And then right down at the bottom, we have two permissions: view published content and view own unpublished content. Now, the view published content is given to all roles. And then we have this view own unpublished content, which is fine if you want to view your own unpublished content. But what if you want to see all the unpublished articles? Well, to do that, we'll need to use a few modules. So let me just expand this browser and jump into Google and search for Drupal override node options. Now, this is the first module we are going to use. And this module gives us more granular permissions so that we can give certain roles access to the publishing option or the revision option or the promote to front page option for specific content types, okay? This module is used to give us access to the published checkbox. So this is the first module we need to download and install. Then we need to use a second module which will allow us to view all unpublished content. Now, for this module, we will use this view unpublished module. So if you click on this link or go directly to project/view_unpublished, this module will then give us access to view any unpublished content. So we need to use two modules. The first one will be override node options to give us access to the checkbox, and then we'll need to use view unpublished to allow us to view the unpublished content. So open up your terminal and then type in composer require Drupal/view unpublished, and then add in another space and then Drupal/override_node_options. And this will download both of the modules in one go. Okay, so here we can see that both modules have been downloaded. Now let's jump back to our browser and I'll close these tabs. And then I will go to extend and then search for override and then install override node options. And then I'll search for unpublished and then install view unpublished and then click on install. Now let's go back to people and then permissions, and then scroll all the way down. Oh, it's just easier to find it. Search for override node options. Perfect. And then here you can see all of the granular permissions for the article and basic page. But what we want to do is scroll down until you find override all published options. So this will allow us to see the checkbox on any content type we have access to, okay? So make sure you assign override all published options to the editor role. And the next section we need to search for is view unpublished. And then what we'll do is we will assign view any unpublished for content and basic page to the editor role. And then click on save permissions. Okay, now let's just resize this screen. Let me bring up my other browser. Let me just fix up these browsers a bit. So here we are already editing an article. And now if I refresh and then scroll all the way down, I should see the published checkbox. So let me just uncheck that and click on save. So straight away you can see that this article titled Great Article is unpublished. And then if I click on the title, you can see that I've got access to the unpublished article. And you know it's unpublished because it's got this pink color, but that is just a styling which is added by the Bartek theme. So if I was to open up another browser so I can log in as an anonymous user. So let me just open up Safari and I'll go to demo1.local. And if I was to go directly to this article, I should see an access denied. Perfect. Now, if you are seeing an access denied when you view an unpublished article and you are certain that you have configured the editor role correctly, well, then you may need to rebuild the permissions table. Now, to do that, let me just close this browser. And then if you go to configuration, then you should see this message: the content access permissions need to be rebuilt. Now, the permission data is stored in tables. And if you install a module which changes the permission, and the view unpublished module does that, then you will need to rebuild the permissions table. Now, if you have a lot of content, it will take a while, and it's important to take a backup of your site just in case something happens. And also, don't do this directly on a production site. Do it on a dev site, test it, and then once you're happy, then rebuild the permissions on a production site. So what I'll do is I'll just click on Rebuild Permissions, and I'll click on Rebuild Permissions here as well. And it's pretty quick because I've only got 2 pieces of content, but if I was to have thousands and thousands of articles and basic pages, it'll take a while. So once you have rebuilt the permissions, you should then have access to the unpublished content, as long as you have set up the permissions correctly. Now, these 2 modules, View Unpublished and Override Node Options, are pretty powerful modules, and I'll use them on pretty much all of my websites.